Hello, welcome. Welcome to this 5-part series on EMFs. Through these videos, I'm going to teach you all about what EMFs are, how we can look out for them, and most importantly, all the different ways that we can protect ourselves from their damaging effects. So in this first video, we're going to start at the basics and we are going to look at what are EMFs. So what we mean by that term, what are the different types of EMFs that we look out for, and where are the sources originating from in our homes especially. So let's get into it. Part 1 here, what are EMFs? So what are EMFs? The electromagnetic spectrum is a huge spectrum of frequencies that includes a whole lot of stuff and some really life-sustaining things like our entire visible light spectrum. So sunlight is part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So certainly not all EMFs are bad. So the term isn't really the best term to use. But what we're really talking about with EMFs is we're talking about the unnatural or artificial sets of frequencies and energies that have been put into our space over the last couple hundred years, and especially over the last 20 years with the advent of our wireless technology infrastructure that we now have. So we've evolved with the natural electromagnetic frequencies of Earth. They sustain us. They're necessary for all life. But really what we're talking about with EMFs is the unnatural, artificial EMFs that have been put into our environment in drastically higher energy concentrations than we would find normally within nature. So I want to show you what the electromagnetic spectrum looks like here, and then I'm going to show you what the ranges of frequencies, the part of this spectrum that we're really going to look at when we're talking about EMFs as they exist within our living space. So here we've got the entire electromagnetic spectrum, and you can see that there is a measurement here in that blue bar where it says frequency, and then it has Hz, that stands for hertz. So hertz is a measure of vibration. It's how the electromagnetic spectrum is measured. And so if something is vibrating at 60 hertz, that means it's vibrating at 60 times a second. So it's going from positive to negative 60 times per second. And as you move higher up in the electromagnetic spectrum, the frequency gets higher. So the rate of vibration increases. As the rate of vibration increases, the energy density increases. So there's more energy higher up in the spectrum. And there's also the waves that it's sending out get smaller and smaller as you move up in that electromagnetic spectrum. So these hertz, as we move up, we can see we've got 60 hertz at one end of the spectrum. That means it's vibrating at 60 times per second. As you move up, you get into kHz, that's kilohertz. That means it's vibrating at 1,000 times per second. Moving up further, we get into MHz, megahertz. That's vibrating at 1,000,000 times per second. Moving up even further into our wireless technology range of frequencies, and we get into the gigahertz, and that means it's vibrating at 1,000,000,000 times per second, and it keeps increasing as we go up. So the ranges of frequencies that we're going to talk about when we talk about EMFs in our living space are all the frequencies that exist within this red box right here. So this is really what we're going to tackle when we're talking about artificial EMFs in our environment. And at one end of the spectrum, in the lower frequency EMFs, we have the electricity that's coming into our homes, and moving through this red box, we get higher up into our radio and television, to our megahertz wireless signals, and further up into our cell phones and Wi-Fi, into the higher gigahertz, and it keeps moving up. So that's the electromagnetic spectrum. This is the part that we're going to be looking at when we talk about EMFs. And in building biology, we group the EMFs into 4 different categories. So there's 4 different types of EMFs that we look for and that we work to clean up. And you could kind of think of these as 4 different sets of frequencies. So the 4 different types that we're going to look at in more detail here are electric fields, magnetic fields, dirty electricity, and wireless or radio frequency. So these are the 4 types of EMFs that we're going to learn how to recognize and learn how to clean up. So starting off with that first EMF, electric fields, I want to go over a little bit about electricity and how it's delivered to our homes. So electricity is delivered in something called alternating current. So when electricity was first being harnessed and worked on how to be used on a large scale, there was a problem in transferring it from large distances. And so you would lose a lot of its power when you had direct current, DC. That means it's not vibrating at all. You would need to have power stations all over the place because it couldn't travel very far. So then alternating current with the help of Nikola Tesla was discovered. And with alternating current, by vibrating it 50 or 60 times, you can allow that electricity to travel a much greater distance and not lose so much power. So you can have a more centralized power generating system and distribute that power out to further distances and not lose so much of its energy. So alternating current is how our electricity is delivered. But it means it's vibrating, and it's this vibration which allows it to emanate out in electric fields. And these are not good for us. So they're constantly being pulsed out into our environment. Now, these electric fields are found wherever there is voltage, so a live wire. So let's say you have something plugged in beside your bed, a lamp, for example. Even if the lamp's not turned on, that cord is still live with voltage, which means it's emanating out electric fields 6 to 8 feet from all points of that cord. And so they create an electric field, and when we enter into that electric field, our body sucks in some of that voltage, but that raises our body voltage, which has health effects on us. So again, these lines are emanating out 6 to 8 feet from their source. So some sources you might find are power adapters, charging stations, overhead lighting, extension cords, circuit panel, electric blankets, the wiring in our walls, floors, and ceilings. These are all sources of electric fields. And again, the closer we are to them, the more or the stronger that electric field source is going to be. Our second type of EMF is also a low frequency type of EMF, but it's separate from electric fields. So in these lower frequencies, electric fields and magnetic fields stay separate. And magnetic fields don't come out in lines, they come out in circles, concentric rings. And it's these concentric rings or these loops that cause a magnetic field increase in certain areas. And these magnetic field increases, these strong magnetic fields, can really impact our health. And so again, it's going to decrease with distance. Now, depending on how strong the source of the magnetic field is, that's going to dictate how far these loops go. So some of the sources we want to look out for magnetic fields are clock radios beside your bed, surprisingly a high source, power adapters, charging stations, lamps, wiring errors in your walls can be a source as well, circuit panel, computers, TVs, stereos, large appliances like fridges and stoves. These are all sources of magnetic fields. The third type of EMF is something called dirty electricity. Now, dirty electricity is additional frequencies that get attached onto our power lines from different technology that we use. So often energy saving technology, but really a lot of our newer technology does contribute some degree to dirty electricity. And how it does that is, as the power is coming in, as the electricity is coming in, these devices are chopping up the power a little bit. And that allows them to save energy. But as they chop it up, they're putting these almost echoes, these harmonics on the line. These additional frequencies get attached on to the electric fields. So often when you clean up the electric fields, you help clean up the dirty electricity as well. However, there is some specific things that you can do to help tame those additional frequencies. Different things you can plug into your walls to help. So some sources of dirty electricity that we might find would be dimmer switches, energy saving devices, CFL and LED lights. So CFL being the compact fluorescent lights, those twirly ones. Smart meters, fans, pumps, variable speed motors like that a pool might have, or an HVAC system, computers and other consumer electronics, solar systems. These can all be sources of dirty electricity. Okay, EMF number 4. This is the most well-known EMF. So this is wireless, or our radio frequency. And this is the one that most people think of when they think of EMFs. And with good reason, because our environments are being absolutely dominated with radio frequency over the last couple decades. These radio frequency fields are a higher frequency. And in these higher frequency ranges, the electric and magnetic fields actually combine together, they vibrate higher, and they become airborne. And it's this component, it's this aspect of these higher frequency vibrations and their airborne element to them that allows all of our wireless technology to exist. And so we want to really be careful of all of the wireless around us. So there's a large set of frequencies that are used for our wireless technology, and the amount of frequencies that are being used is expanding because we have so much wireless tech around us now that they're starting to interact with each other if they're using the same frequencies, so they have to expand the frequency set, which just increases our exposure as well. So some sources of wireless that you might find in your home would be your Wi-Fi router, your cell phones, wireless keyboards and mice, any devices that use Bluetooth, laptops and computers, gaming systems, wireless headphones. You can also have external sources like all of the people around you and their technology, cell towers, smart meters. There's a whole lot of wireless tech in our world, and it's expanding at a great rate. So this is something we really want to be mindful of. So as we go through these videos, I'm going to show you all the different ways that we can start to identify the sources of EMFs within our space, and especially all of the different things that we can do to lower their effects on us and really often remove these harmful energies and frequencies from our space. There's a lot of stuff that we can do, and it's often easier than we might think. And then in the next lesson, we're going to look at the health effects of EMFs and what some of the published research shows us on why we want to be especially mindful of this aspect of our environment.